So Walid and Timmy joined Adam before I did.
Ah,
Yeah,
they
so
did.
not a lot of
I
people know that. So
see.
actually, it was the three of them, and
And
I
then
was the
you.
latecomer. But
I
it
see.
wasn't called Mo4. It was Taskarti and Cairo Zoom as businesses that they were working
I
on.
see.
And then I joined latest, and I was like, no, let's make it a proper
Structure
company.
it properly.
I wanted to call it Mofo, and then I was vetoed, and I was like, well,
Well, I'm glad they vetoed you.
I know. I had no long-term vision apparently, but and then I called it Mo4.
Yeah,
which is I was like,
it's
oh
very
wait,
cute.
that also still works.
It's very cute.
And you do these things never realizing where they can go. And so
And it was very organic.
it was very organic. So we had websites,
Yeah.
and we wanted to sell the banner ads on the website because that's how you made money off websites at the time, right?
Yeah.
So when I started, and we were self-funded, we had no outside investors. The office was my apartment. It was just ludicrous what we were doing, and we had two developers. That's it, two techies, and just the four of us. And the first day I went in, I'm like, what the.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I started working my contacts in order to sell banner ads.
And did you feel even then responsible for your brothers? Did you feel that
the younger ones certainly at the time, because they were very young at the time,
and that it was on you to make this work?
Yes. I felt a lot at the time. It's very different now, but at the time I felt it was a lot on me and Adam to make it work. And we were coming at it from very different. Adam's an entrepreneur, and I was a creative, I was a storyteller. And because we had no outside investment, in order to push these websites, we were using Facebook profiles at the time and Twitter. And we were being very creative and very cheeky and very cool. So when I started to go to sell banner ads, the clients I was meeting would say, yeah, whatever, but this thing that you're doing on social media, we don't really understand social media, and we're getting pressure from abroad that we need to have our own social media accounts. Can you do this? I was like, what, you want to pay me to post on Facebook? They were like, yes. And so they said this, and so we organically and unwittingly became an agency, and one of the first social media agencies. And because we had no legacy understanding of what an advertising agency meant, we were purely social born, and were able to create a structure that was adaptive and quick
and purely digital
and resilient in a way that social media needed to be. And so we exploded.
And did you find that, let's say, a company like, just as an example, McDonald's would hire you, but they would also keep alongside their traditional advertising company?
And so that happened for years. That was the case. So for years, whether it was, Coca-Cola was one of our first big FMCG clients. And for years, it would be the case that we would walk into the boardroom, and, the creative agencies would be the people with muscle in the room. At the very end of the talk, they were like, okay, cool. So now we're knowing what you're doing. Facebook, what are you going to do with Facebook? And it would drive me crazy. And I remember very early on getting so frustrated by this. And there were some of the big shots and sitting in this room and saying to them, if you don't understand that you have to put your digital strategies first, you're going to be dead in the water, because you will not be advertising on TV very soon. And I was laughed at. Now look at us, right? Now look at us. I say the same thing now when people are, think we're being crazy talking about Web3 and crypto and NFTs and metaverse. People are going, what are you doing? I'm like, it's the same thing. You guys laughed us out of the room when we said television advertising would be dead. And the tables, it was incredible how quickly the tables shifted, that everything became digital first. And we were so fortunate to be perfectly positioned. But my God, Malak, we worked harder than anyone can. It was 24/7. We sacrificed everything. And it's so funny, because I see in recent years, everyone wants to start a digital, everyone starts a digital agency.
And everyone thinks it's easy.
Everyone sees what we did, and they see, alhamdulillah, this big client portfolio and the advertising coming in. They can't imagine the times when we did not know how we were going to pay our gas bill, our electricity bill, when we weren't able to pay our salaries anywhere close to on time for a long time. The problems and the sacrifices and the fights and the resilience that it took to build a business without a single penny of funding. We live in a world right now where any entrepreneur doesn't even think about sending out his first email until he's done a seed round of an undisclosed six-figure seed round. Imagine doing that and building and having to deliver to clients with nothing.
With none of that.
And
with
no
support.
ecosystem, and with no mentorship, and with no incubation, and making stupid ass mistakes every day and having to recover from them and taking the blows and fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting.
So tell me about how you're looking to the future to ensure that Mo4 doesn't become a dinosaur.
Yes.
What are your next?
So two things. So our big refocus on the media and the big expansion, the aggressive expansion that has happened on the media is because I believe what people will always need is even if they're able to create their own message, they need someone to amplify that message for them. And the media is that mouthpiece, right? So whatever happens, I'm talking in terms of advertisers, not in terms of pure storytellers. Advertisers are going to need the space, right? That space is not television anymore. They need to go to someone who can tell their story and make it reach millions of people. And that's what we do essentially from the business side of Mo4 Media. And so I understand that expanding that aggressively is my methodology of survival as a business. And so I'm also focused no one in the Middle East does what we do in terms of digital media. And so I'm very focused on us now expanding our portfolio into the Middle East. On the other side, we're also looking forward in terms of where is digital going? And, and this is, we believe that this is the last days of Web 2, and we are on the precipice of the Web 3 revolution, and everything that will bring with it. What will it bring? Who knows? But we're big believers that the technology on which this is founded will be revolutionary in the same way that internet versions 1 and 2 are revolutionary. They will change the way we trade. They will change the way we create communities. They will change the way that we own our content and own our identities. And that's very important. And we just want to make sure that when the time comes that it proliferates in the way that social media did, that we're ready.
But what does that mean in practice? How are you building this out? How are you making sure that Mo4 becomes present in that third generation of the internet?
So we're doing it in two facets. First of all, we're building Web3 media through our Nifty Scene platform. So we want to make sure that even as storytellers, we're looked at as the place to go to understand what is happening in the space and to understand the people that are creating the biggest noise in the space.
And I presume that space is growing.
Yes, it is. And so Nifty Scene is the first product in our portfolio that was designed with a global audience in mind.
Oh, wow.
Because the market is so nascent, we found ourselves in this unique opportunity that, I can't be a Vanity Fair. I'm not going to compete with Vanity Fair, but I can be Cairo Scene and have an edge. When it comes to the NFT or the Web3 space, it's so new that I could be the Vanity Fair of that space globally. So that's what Nifty Scene is doing. From an agency perspective, we are readying ourselves with the technical skills and the know-how and the ability to be able to create metaverse worlds for brands, to be able to create metaverse strategies, to be able to create overall Web3 strategies to help you build an NFT collection and market that collection.
Tell me as well about the e-commerce.
Yes.
It's called Botted, which I love the name.
It's called Botted.
Tell me about that.
BOTID. BOTIT.
Yeah.
We just finished the tagline on it. It's everything now is the tagline. Or Botted got it, one of them. Anyway, so the idea is, it's purely AI driven. It's a purely AI-driven e-commerce app. It's very important to realize that a lot of previous apps would say that they were AI-driven, but essentially it's just a pumped-up call center. This is truly AI-driven. And we have been very fortunate because of this network that we have built, that we have quite literally thousands of vendors on this app of the biggest international and local brands.
So presumably they are from the Mo4
way beyond
database,
the Mo4, but obviously we have the access of Mo4. Yeah. So it's quite literally thousands of vendors. So you can go on there and you can go, I want, eggs and a loaf of bread for my grocery shopping. I want a new pair of jeans from Levi's. I need a top from Zara, a packet of cigarettes, and a canoe, and whatever.
So it's like being in a mall and getting everything in one shot.
And then the way that the UI is done, it's single screen. So you're not toggling between different brands and then going into different vortexes. So you can literally go, yeah, that's the packet of crisps that I want. That's a top that I want. And those are the jeans that I want. No one does that. And then you order it, very, very easy ordering process, and everything comes to you on the same day, which means that we're great at same day delivery for food in this country, same minute delivery for food,
Yeah,
right?
it shows as well in the population.
Yeah, but we don't have, even with Amazon Prime, we don't have that. But also, here's the fun thing about this, which is one of my favorite things that because we're doing a family and friends testing right now. One of the funnest things that I find is that I can order a top from a high street brand and at the same time something from one of these cool Egyptian independent labels who don't have any logistical facilities. And it comes to me at the same time.
And so you're giving them a shop window that they wouldn't have, which is great.
Exactly.
And presumably the big brands are subsidizing the smaller brands on the side.
And what's the fun thing now where we start to play is why we've self-funded this, right? So we, until we're taking it to market, it's completely self-funded. And everyone who has heard us trying to do this, the first thing that they go is, yeah, but you won't be able to afford the marketing spend and burn that these other apps have. Most of these other apps use that marketing burn and spend with me. When they came to Egypt.
So you know what they're spending.
We launched Uber in Egypt. We launched Glovo in Egypt. So that power was built in-house. The reason we started this e-commerce was because, after a decade, we're like, we are literally helping all of these people make money while they sleep, and we're not using these capabilities for ourselves, and we're still selling advertising like it's 2008.
Let's close up.
Sure.
I want to talk back to your writing.
Yes.
And I want to know, because I know that in the last few months you've been writing these stream of consciousness kind of posts on Instagram.
Yes.
And they're clearly too long for Instagram.
Yes, for sure.
But that's the medium you've been using.
Yes.
Do you see yourself, and I think you probably do, but maybe not now, not necessarily taking a step back from what you're doing, but carving more time for that, for the actual writing and doing it? Firstly, what medium would you do it in? Because I think you'll say, yes, I want to write. I'm sure of that. But what would be your medium? Because you're clearly no longer a paper and pencil kind of gal. How would you write, and what would you, not necessarily what would you write, but how would you do it, and how would you publish it?
So it is my absolute dream to focus on my writing. It is my joy. It is my happy place. It is the thing that comes most naturally to me. It is I constantly have a voice in my head that is restructuring what I'm seeing and what I'm doing into a story in my head. And it is my greatest regret that I have 10 media publications and I write for none of them because I have to run a business. And so I have a fantasy of running away and living on a mountain somewhere by myself writing. But I think, there's a part of my motivation for doing things like the e-commerce where it's a different financial structure that isn't so
work intensive
on a daily level, that maybe it will afford me the luxury and the privilege to be able to step back a little and take time for my writing. Because I know, and I don't mean this to sound arrogant,
but you know what you're good at.
I know I'm good at what I do with Mo4 because I work really hard and I'm passionate, and it means a lot to me, especially on this media side. But I know where my special talent. Everyone has a special talent, and you're very lucky if you can figure what that out is. And I think it's ironic that I figured it out early and I was able to leverage it early, and then I stopped.
No, I don't think you stopped. I think you just put it on hold.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you used it in a certain capacity.
Yes. So for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Mo4 is built on storytelling, and that's what fuels it. And my ability to do that is what moves the business from the non-business perspective. And so I hope, what format though would it take? I don't know. Maybe I do more on Instagram. Maybe I write another book. I have another book in me. I have books in me.
I
I
think you
know
have
I
more
do.
than one in you.
I have books in me. I
But
just need to.
do you think because I wonder whether you might have a novel in you. Because so far, the work you've been doing has been very journalistic,
Yeah.
personal journey, personal stories, observational.
Yeah.
Do you think you have a novel in you?
I've never tried. Maybe I do. But you know, the thing is, I think you just, it's like when I'm on holiday, I write. If I've had a break, I write a lot because it needs a certain. I don't need to sound like no about it,
It
but
needs
like
a
it kind of
headspace.
needs a
Yeah,
headspace,
for sure.
right? Because when you're running a business, especially, you wake up in the morning and immediately you get infiltrated and bombarded with needs and requirements and deadlines and pressures. And it's very difficult then to leave a space for your creativity to come through. And writing, as much as it is a creative process, it's also a job. You know what I mean? And you have to be
And
committed
it's a
to doing a
discipline.
discipline,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you have to be able to make time for that
yeah.
discipline day in and day out,
Mm.
which unfortunately I'm not afforded that time right now. And it is my dream to create it, and it is especially recently. I turned 42 last July, and it is one of the things that plays on my mind more than ever right now, because I'm much more cognizant of my age and of time running out. And alhamdulillah, I still wake up with my health and my abilities, of not letting too much more time get wasted before I explore this thing that I truly love.